But you let the whole world lie on him.
I tried.
Did you notice that all that stuff just kind of just went away?
Well,
like after a while, it just like the lie just went away.
The slandering. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it went away.
So you agreed that it was slander.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was horrendous. It was horrendous.
It was character assassination.
Yeah.
I think that.
So it's okay for me to feel some type of way about the NFL.
Let me be real with you right now, because what just dropped in the last 48 hours changes everything you thought you knew about Shedeur Sanders' first year in the NFL. Forget the draft slide, forget the fifth-round noise, forget everything the media was saying about his attitude, his father, his Instagram, because Shedeur Sanders just made a move, quietly, strategically, and it has Jerry Jones, Arthur Blank, and every single owner in that NFL boardroom sitting up straight in their chairs right now. This isn't about football anymore. This is about power. And the NFL wasn't ready for what this kid just did.
Top quarterback in this draft and why?
Of course. Now the thing is, I respect a lot of quarterbacks here. They put a lot of hard work in to get to this point. So it's kudos to them. It's truly respect, but I know what I bring to the table.
Okay, so here's what you actually need to understand first, because most channels are not going to give you the full picture. They're going to talk about the drama, the draft fall, how he slid all the way to the 5th round while quarterbacks who can't carry his shoes went in the top 10. And yeah, we're going to talk about that too. But if that's all you're focused on, you're missing the actual story. The real story isn't what happened to Shedeur in the draft. The real story is what Shedeur did because of the draft. Think about this for a second. When the NFL humiliated him, because let's be honest, it was a humiliation, the #1 quarterback in college football falling to pick 144, that's not a coincidence. That's a message. When they sent that message, most 22-year-olds would have crumbled. They would have gone quiet. They would have deleted Instagram. They would have shown up to training camp with their head down trying to prove themselves. That's what the league expected. That's what every team banking on him being desperate wanted. Shedeur Sanders did the exact opposite, and that's where this deal comes in. Because what he just locked in isn't just a brand partnership. It's not just a check. What Shedeur Sanders just secured is leverage. Real, actual, uncomfortable leverage. The kind that makes billionaire NFL owners lose sleep. And if you've been following this kid since Colorado, you already know. Deion didn't raise a boy who plays small. He raised someone who played chess while the NFL was playing checkers. So let's go back to the beginning for just a second, because context matters here. When Shedeur entered the 2025 draft, he was supposed to be a top 5 pick. The tape was there, the production was there, Colorado's resurgence under Deion was real, and Shedeur was the engine. Over 2 seasons, he threw for nearly 5,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, and posted a completion percentage that would make some current NFL starters look sideways. The kid could throw, the kid could read a defense, the kid could lead. But then the whispers started. You know how it works. It always whispers first. Anonymous scouts, unnamed sources, someone close to the situation. And the whispers said things like, he's too confident, he's too much like his dad, he's got an attitude, he wore chains at the combine, he didn't smile the right way at interviews, he didn't perform for them the way they wanted him to perform. And teams started pulling back. The calls got quiet. And on draft night, Shedeur Sanders, the guy every analyst had in the top 5, watched round 1 go by. Then round 2, then 3, then 4. Then he finally heard his name at 144, 143 picks deep. Now here's what nobody was talking about in those first few days after the draft, and this is the part that actually matters for what just happened. While every talking head on ESPN and NFL Network was debating whether Shedeur had an attitude problem, while they were analyzing his body language and his social media, Shedeur's team was on the phone. Not to the Browns, not to the NFL, to brands, to media companies, to partners who understood something that the NFL's old guard completely miscalculated. Shedeur Sanders' draft slide didn't hurt his brand, it made it bigger. Think about that, because that is genuinely one of the most stunning reversals in modern sports business. The NFL tried to humble him, and instead they handed him a story, a narrative, an underdog arc with a villain, and the villain is 32 billionaires in suits who told a black quarterback from Jackson State that he wasn't good enough to go in the first round. Do you know what that story is worth to a generation of young fans who already felt like the league was rigged? It's worth everything. And that's exactly the foundation of the deal he just locked in. The specifics are still breaking, but what we know is that Shedeur has finalized a multi-platform brand and media partnership that positions him not just as an NFL quarterback, but as a content creator, brand ambassador, and athlete-media hybrid. We're talking about an arrangement that gives him equity stakes, not just a flat fee, actual ownership stakes in the platforms pushing his story. That's the part that's making Jerry Jones nervous. That's the part that has owners in quiet conversations right now. Because Shedeur Sanders just figured out how to build a media machine around himself that the Cleveland Browns or any NFL team does not control. And before you say, okay, but he's a backup, what leverage does he actually have? Stop, because you're thinking about this the wrong way.
Equality. First of all, I want the kids to some kind of way be compensated.
Yes, sir.
But on a level, in an even scale. I want the certain schools to have the same opportunities as other schools. Or probably
Leverage in the modern NFL is not just about who starts on Sunday. It never was, but the old owners pretended it was because that was the easiest way to keep players in line. Pay them, play them, replace them. That was the model. That's how you kept every quarterback scared and hungry and desperate to please the front office. But Shedeur Sanders is walking into Cleveland with a fan base that existed before he ever took an NFL snap. He's walking in with a social media following that most NFL franchises would kill for. He's walking in with a story, the draft slide story, that writes itself as underdog gold. And now he's walking in with media equity that generates income independent of whether Kevin Stefanski decides he's the starter. That changes the negotiation forever. Because here's what every team in the NFL now has to reckon with. If Shedeur succeeds in Cleveland, he becomes the face of the franchise, and they look smart. Great for them. But if they misuse him, if they bury him on the bench, if they play political games with his development the way some teams do with quarterbacks they secretly don't believe in, Shedeur Sanders has a platform big enough to tell his own story, and the fans who already believe the league was wrong about him are going to listen. That's the panic. That's the thing making Jerry Jones and the old money owners uncomfortable. Because Jerry Jones has operated for 30 years in a world where he controls the narrative, where the quarterback is grateful, where the player needs the team more than the team needs the player. Shedeur Sanders just broke that model. Not with a press conference, not with a viral tweet, with a business deal that restructures the power dynamic quietly, legally, and permanently. Now look, I'm not here to tell you Shedeur is guaranteed to be an elite NFL quarterback. That's on him to prove. And honestly, I think he will. The tape doesn't lie. The arm talent is real. The football IQ is real. The competitive edge that everyone in the media kept calling an attitude problem is the exact same edge that makes great quarterbacks great. But even if you're skeptical, even if you watched the Colorado games and thought, yeah, the production was there, but the NFL is different, even if you're not fully sold yet, you have to admit that what he just did off the field is a masterclass. He took the worst thing that happened to him and monetized it. He took the humiliation and turned it into leverage. He took the message the NFL sent him, "You're not one of us, you don't fit our box," and responded by building his own box. And now every NFL owner who thought the draft slide put Shedeur Sanders in his place is realizing they didn't put him in his place at all. They just gave him the story to tell, and he found the biggest possible platform to tell it on. The question now is what Cleveland does with this, because the Browns are in a fascinating position. They have a quarterback controversy brewing with Joe Flacco and the rest of the room. They have a fan base that is desperate for something to believe in, and they have a rookie sitting in that building who is generating more national attention than the entire franchise combined. The smart move is obvious. Get him reps, get him games, get him in front of cameras, and let the story write itself. But the NFL doesn't always make the smart move, and that's exactly what Shedeur and his team are prepared for.
Because whether Cleveland uses him right or wrong, Shedeur Sanders has now made sure he wins either way. And that, right there, is what has every owner in that league quietly furious and low-key terrified. Here's where it gets really interesting, though, and this is the part I want you to sit with before you leave. Shedeur Sanders isn't the first athlete to build a brand around being underestimated, but he might be the first quarterback in NFL history to do it deliberately, this early, with this much infrastructure behind him before he ever starts a regular season game. LeBron built his empire in year 8. Shedeur is building his in year 1. And Deion, who knows every mistake and every trap this league has laid for young black quarterbacks for 40 years, Deion is right there making sure his son doesn't fall into a single one of them. That's not an accident. That's a plan, and it's working. So tell me, drop it in the comments right now. Do you think Cleveland is going to give Shedeur a real shot? Or are the Browns going to be the team that lets the most marketable quarterback of his generation sit on the bench while the rest of the NFL wishes they had taken him? Because history has a way of making those decisions look very different 5 years later. And I have a feeling Shedeur Sanders already knows exactly how this story ends. If you've been riding with Shedeur since the Colorado days, if you believed in him when the whole league tried to write him off, hit that subscribe button right now, because we are going to cover every single chapter of this story as it happens. This is just the beginning, and trust me, it's only going to get more interesting from here.